conversation today, the World Burlesque Day topic on burlesque in the digital age. And I'm joined by a host of people all over the world. We have got Don Manuel Presents from New York, Neil Lewis from here in the UK, Baby Ray and Pillow Talk from Oh Baby Productions, Undine Laverve from Malta, and Vera Valentina from New York. So let's make everybody welcome. We'll start with Neil, who will introduce himself.
Hi there, I'm Neil Lewis. My company is called Behind Burlesque. I actually started off as a photographer way back in the 1980s, late 70s really, and got into burlesque via the process of doing a book on the subject, a photo documentary, around about 2011. It was published in 2012, and following on from that, making use of the contacts I built up, started producing shows, which I've been doing ever since, both live and online in the last couple of years.
Welcome. The gorgeous duo Oh Baby Productions.
Hi there, everybody. I'm Pillow Talk from Oh Baby Productions, one of the co-producers.
And my name is Baby Ray, and together we form Oh Baby Productions. We're a burlesque production company in South Africa. We produce the South African Burlesque Festival, as well as the award-winning podcast called What's the Tease, where Pillow Talk sits down with contributors to the wonderful world of burlesque from all over the world.
Welcome. We have the gorgeous Don Manuel Presents from New York.
Hello, everybody. My name is Don Manuel Presents. Like she said, I'm from upstate New York. My company is Don Manuel Presents. We are a multi-passionate entrepreneurship. We work with artists from all over the world, and we help organize events from hip hop shows to burlesques, comedy shows, and everything in between.
Welcome. And Undine Laverve from Malta.
Hi, I'm Undine Laverve from Malta. I teach burlesque at BAM, the Burlesque Academy of Malta, and I also produce a variety events. The most notable one is Maltese, which is happening. It happens once a year. Yeah, so that's me.
Gorgeous. And last but absolutely not least, Vera Valentina, who I have just had such a YouTube crush on your gorgeous productions and incredible following. You've done such a great thing making burlesque accessible. How are you?
Hey all, hey, thank you so much for the introduction. That made me feel really good, but I'm Vera Valentina. I said earlier, your favorite burlesque YouTuber. I'm so lame. I'm trying to build a YouTube channel that helps people go further, faster in burlesque, because I grew up in a time in burlesque when people were gatekeeping and I didn't like that. So here we are now, a year, or rather 2 years into my YouTube channel, 20,000 followers later. I'm also the current reigning queen of the Kansas City Burlesque Festival, the longest reigning queen of the Kansas City Burlesque Festival, but I'll be giving up my crown on May 7th, so look out for that.
It is great. So I am going to facilitate 4 questions, and each group is going to answer, just so we can all understand what we learned in the lockdown, and if we were digital already, what we did differently, or how we accelerated some of our activities. Some people came into it completely new, and some people really just kind of upstepped what they were already doing. So Neil, we'll start with you. What did you learn about online in the lockdown, or were you already online, and how did that change for you?
I think up until we locked down, the only online activity I was involved in really was promoting the live shows one way or another, drumming up interest, finding cast members, finding audience members, and trying to build things around what was already existing on live stages around London and the southeast. Lockdown meant that all had to come to a halt, and we didn't know how long it was going to take. No idea how long it was going to be for. And I was actually in the middle of a burlesque competition series at the time, one that's been running now, is currently in its 8th season, and we couldn't just stop in the middle of it and not do anything. So the first thought was, okay, how do we transition this to doing something online with it in such a way that we can continue with it again when we are able to open up. So that basically, I looked at different ways of doing it and decided that I would prefer to do pre-recorded shows rather than live online shows, just because it was the whole quality of the thing was much more under control that way. We were able to actually check what was being broadcast, put it together properly, have it presented properly by a host who knew what was coming up. Everything would happen on time, exactly as we said it would. We could sell tickets for it in the usual way. All of that basically I added into the existing website that I'd been building since 2010, so that we could handle online shows and do all the ticketing and everything automatically. And that took off really, and that's worked quite well. After we've been doing that for a few months, it became obvious we were actually attracting attention and performers from much further afield than usual, because previously it had been live shows in London and the South East. Our performer base were essentially UK performers. We had some who were, in fact, the furthest we'd had anyone travel specifically to be in the show before that was Canada. But you know, we used to see quite a lot of people coming from all over the country, but not much further than that for the most part. As soon as we started doing things online, we had performers coming in from literally all over Europe, as well as the US, some from South Africa. And again, because it was a competition series, we actually ended up with some finalists coming in from Italy and Spain and the Republic of Ireland. And that actually happened more or less the moment we were able to open up. We actually had the final a year ago last September, and we were open and able to do live shows, not very long at all, but long enough to do that one. And that worked very well. But it was as a direct result of that that I then thought, okay, well, we're doing this. Sorry, at the same time, I should say, I'd also been running alongside that my regular cabaret series, which is called Uncaged Cabaret. And we switched to doing those online as well, again in a pre-recorded format. And in the same way, we were attracting performers from all over wanting to take part in those. So when we got to the end of that particular period, and we were able to start looking at live shows again, two things really came up. One was, well, we'll go back and do live shows, but I don't want to start turning away all the people who are participating with us from much further afield. So we need to do something online as well, run that in parallel with the live stuff, and let's see how that progresses. But also, it became clear fairly quickly that returning to live shows, it was going to be beneficial all round to actually start running hybrids where we do a live show but with an online live broadcast running simultaneously. And I'd spent some months really working out how best to do that. That basically now runs again through my website. We set up a multi-camera live feed, normally 4 or 5 cameras in the venue, which are mixed live as we go by one guy sitting at a computer console managing that, which all then is streamed up to a company called Mux, who handle the streaming side for us, and which then is linked and brought directly to my website from there, so that it all appears. The time lag is about 15 seconds from live to actually being on the website, and then that's all recorded as we go, so we make it available on catch up after the show as well.
I just love that. And definitely the part about the whole world opening up and noticing all these pockets of it and people wanting to be involved from all over the world. How was that for you guys, Pillow Talk in South Africa? Baby Ray, what did you do and how was it? Were you already online? Was it complete like, oh my God, you know, pivot, what are we going to do? Or was it a little bit familiar?
No, we were not online at all. We were hosting we had just actually started our monthly burlesque show that's called Baddie. We had just started it, and then that month South Africa went into lockdown.
Which was March of 2020.
Yeah. So we had just had our very first one. We had gathered all of this hype and all of these people interested in performing and all these people who wanted to come to this monthly show. And then we went into lockdown. So then we actually had an idea, and we decided to have burlesque shows on Instagram Live. So we hosted 3 shows via Instagram Live. They were called Quarantees, and we invited performers from all over the world, which was the main benefit of this moment in the history of COVID, I suppose, when everybody didn't really know what was going on. We had no idea how long this is going to last for. And so performers were really actually very keen to just jump on board and to start performing, because it had been a number of weeks since they had even put on their costumes or put on a face of makeup. So when we reached out to these people who were previously completely inaccessible to us, they were actually keen. So we did these Instagram Live shows. They were 3-day shows. So yeah, each show went on for about 3 days. With our final one being predominantly in Australia. We had a whole bunch of Australian artists join us for that one. And then we hosted a Zoom show called Homecoming.
Mm-hmm.
And that was live on Zoom. We didn't know actually how to go about doing a pre-recorded Zoom thing. Maybe in hindsight, we probably would have chosen that option instead, because it was very difficult to make it a smooth show, although we did manage somehow to make it as smooth as possible. But yeah, once again, we had performers from all over the world joining us for Homecoming, and that was very difficult. Yeah, for the artists, especially if they didn't necessarily have somebody at home with them to help with the music and then recording and sharing their screen. It was difficult.
I think also our main thing as producers is why we went the live route, is that we were trying to reenact what everyone was used to, you know. But it also gave quite a charming aspect in terms of when you are working with artists from around the world and you are navigating different time zones, to be, you know, that you're working with, trying to find a time, of course, as in this case, with showtime, but it's showtime for us at 8 p.m. and it's showtime for somebody in New York at 2 p.m. And then if they in like on the other side of the coast in LA, it's like 11 a.m. and Miss Tasha's setting up a carousel in her backyard, you know, and she's in full makeup kind of thing.
That was fun.
So that was super special about the experience, and what was nice about doing it live is that yes, we were all in that moment at the same time in all these various pockets of the world. But of course, like doing things live came with, you know, the thing, you know, the second part of your question was what did we learn from that? And we learned a lot about sort of censorship and copyright issues when it comes to producing an event live on those platforms. So
yeah. So often our shows were cut off by Instagram, and yeah, copyright music and nudity and people reporting our live shows and having the show stop halfway through. So that was also something that we then had to navigate, and it's kind of why we haven't gone back to it. But then also lockdown was when Pillow Talk started her podcast, What's the Tease? But before, it's just like one more thing on like the Instagram, when we you know, lockdown for us in South Africa came into effect like March 18th, and the both of us are not people to kind of sit on our laurels too long. Needed to do something, and so like our first quarantine show actually was 2 weeks later, you know, so by the 3rd we were starting to produce it in those 2 weeks, and then the first one like took place in the 6th of April. That was like, so we also, that I felt like that was like the beginning of when everyone was still finding out what is the pros and cons and how to use these platforms. So there was still actually not a lot of knowledge around it, especially for people who haven't had much interaction with online formats at that time, besides pictures and videos, you know, promoting your stuff in that way. So we were teaching people how to go live on Instagram while learning ourselves.
Yeah.
Yep, I did a lot of that, singing from the same hymn sheet. We should have shared notes. It's a shame we're only meeting now. I had a guide. I had a million different things I could have told you. That's cool. Amazing. Don, you have just been such a force online. Prior to me meeting you, you were doing all your gaming rooms and 6-hour streams, and so you were not probably new, I feel, to online in the prior to lockdown, but maybe your habits or your methods changed, or am I wrong on that? Like, what did you learn in lockdown and what went differently?
So prior to COVID and the lockdown, online for me was just a tool. It was a means to an end for my business, sort of kind of like what Neil was saying in Oh Baby Productions. I was already utilizing it for events and marketing and things like that. I was really big on Facebook with the events because it's one of the only sites where you can actually host at the time, where you can host an event on there and do everything on your event page, down to live streaming while at a live event.
Mm-hmm.
So it was something that we were already practicing while we were at live events. We would go live and utilize online services, but it wasn't one of those things that, we depended on. If people hopped in on the live, awesome, you get to join what we're doing here live in person. During the lockdown, we learned a lot of different things about these platforms, copyright being one of them. Like, I kind of knew about them prior because one of the things that I do is DJ. And so I would DJ during live events and certain songs would play and we would get copyright strikes. So I would end up learning how to gear my music towards whatever platform I was using. So if I was using Facebook or Instagram, I would use less copyrighted material and more independent artists. So we wouldn't get taken down. So we kind of had that curve a little bit when we went straight into lockdown and having to utilize online streaming. The cool thing about it with like Zoom was pre-records. So being a photographer and a videographer as well, I was asked by burlesque models to help them record sets for shows for pre-record. None of them were actually brave enough to do a live show because of all the hiccups that could happen. There is a different feel between doing a live show live online and in person. You don't get the same feel for it because you're used to people clapping and applauding and hooting and hollering, and we're in our living rooms or bedrooms or makeshift studios and hearing applause in our head while we're doing what we're doing to keep us going. So it taught me to utilize these platforms and build actual connections with people. The cool thing about these platforms is we're able to be in different time zones and still have a conversation at the same time. So there's only one other person in the same time zone with me here in New York, but we're able to connect using these platforms and learning how to use them to stay connected with each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so interesting. You're ahead of the curve, though. I quite applaud you. I was tampering with live in Facebook, a bit frightened of it, and then oh my god, I'm literally a live queen now. So Undine, you were teaching online. You were one of the people in people's shows. Did you do live, like actual live performance, or did you pre-record? What was your experience, darling?
So my experience was when lockdown started, I wanted to keep, because I teach and I have beginners, but I also have advanced students who I mentor. So we're very close and they're like my small performance group. And the most important thing was for me to keep people motivated as well and keep myself motivated. And I set 2 days a week that we would have classes. And I kind of encouraged them to dress up and put some lipstick on and, just look nice for that, because it was something to keep us going. And we use different platforms to do classes. So like Zoom and, Facebook Live on our group, and I use Skype, and we tried a lot of different things. The interesting thing about it is that what actually teaching burlesque online is quite complicated. Because you're not in the same room. So what I did was I would come up with choreographies and I teach that. And the funny thing was that when we went back into live class, a lot of people learned the moves the other way. I had people come into class and do like the mirroring of what I was doing. I'd be like, okay, expected. And I'd actually record the choreographies and put them on a group where everyone could, you know, learn them at home. And that, I feel like that really kept myself and the rest of my group motivated. And we'd also organize little like events at the weekend where we would write rhinestone or work on costumes and, you know, talk about costume ideas, again, just to keep motivated and to keep each other going. And then I was invited to do a few events online, mostly foreign ones, and that's where I met Vera. Actually, we did one together, and I actually did them live. So that's a really strange experience. It's like you and your laptop alone in the room. They were on Zoom, so they would play the music and it would be really low, and then you have to kind of tease the camera and tease your you know, your laptop, which is like a really weird thing to do, like, hey, ooh. But it was fine. It was different, but it was also so nice to just do that. But it's also funny, you know, you do your act and then you're like, you have to clean up after yourself and then go back on the Zoom. That was really funny. And I also did one for Maltese. Like, we had a Maltese group of creators who came together, and they were musicians and everyone, and they included the burlesque, and that was also really nice. And one other thing that I did was that I made my classes actually free, because I felt like that was something that I wanted to do. I didn't feel like the classes were the same online. So I just told everyone, just join in whenever you can. It's free. Anyone could join. I had people joining from other countries who just wanted to try it. It was fun, and I felt like I was also giving back at the time. But I chose not to produce shows online because I just felt like, I don't know, I was already doing so much with the teaching, and I felt like maybe producing a show online would be a little bit different, since I don't know, a little bit different. But I saw some Oh Baby productions. I watched some of those on Instagram. I actually bumped into one and I just stayed and I just watched, and I was like, oh my God, this is great. I think you had Miss Tosh and you had all these you know, I loved it. So yeah, I actually I went and I booked a few shows, and I watched a lot of online shows and encouraged others too. So I'm not producing, but supporting others in that way.
Oh, I just love that. I think that's really beautiful. And now someone who has really just blown the whole digital thing out of the park, Vera, how have you found it? Like, were you completely a novice? Have you literally mastered all this tech and built that following because of lockdown, or were you dabbling?
Oh, you're always so nice to me in these introductions. To be completely honest with you, I started my YouTube channel back in 2017 when I was a burgeoning baby burlesquer. I had just started working at a burlesque club when I lived in St. Louis, and I was performing every single weekend. So I was in top shape. I was performing all of the time. I was building costumes. I was doing all of these amazing things. And then I moved. And I got here, and I was, like I said before, when we were talking before the panel, I was expecting to move to New York City area, the tri-state area, and just take off and find my way in New York City and Philadelphia burlesque. And that didn't happen. So I was trying to figure out a way for me to still stay involved in burlesque. And like Undyne said, keep myself motivated throughout the pandemic to stay in shape, to keep working on costumes, to keep doing all of these things. So once we eventually got out of this Paw Patrol, that I would be ready, and hopefully I could help somebody else also be ready. So that's why I started kind of like redirecting my YouTube channel from following me on my burlesque journey at the time to following me on my burlesque journey at home and teaching and helping other people, like I said, go further, faster in burlesque. But when you say, was it mastered? Absolutely not. I have not mastered to this day. I haven't mastered anything, because everything's always changing. I mean, when we first got into lockdown, TikTok became the thing, but nobody was like sure whether TikTok was going to be it for performers, basically. Do we have to switch over to that platform? And then we come to find out, okay, there's money over there. There's a larger audience over there. Maybe we do need to make that switch. YouTube, a lot of burlesque dancers tried to start YouTube channels. A lot of people quit too early. And if there's anybody out there who's watching this right now, who wants to start a burlesque YouTube channel, I think that you should. Don't stop, build your audience. I'm promising you, like, you'll get it. It just takes time. And I think that's the main issue that everybody has been having with the switch from live to online, is sticking with it, being consistent, and doing what you have to do to get it done on a regular basis. Because before, we were just using social media as, like everybody else has said, as a means to an end. We're just marketing ourselves because we're performers, we're producers, trying to get our names and our shows out there. But now our shows aren't happening out there anymore. So we need to make a name for ourselves online so that people will eventually come back to us. And I think that was my issue, or my big takeaway from everything, is creating that online presence on all the platforms, building up the YouTube channel, building up the TikTok, building up the Instagram, and participating in all of these online shows that everybody's doing, and trying to build your online presence so that you're not, I hate to say it, but you're not irrelevant once you come out. And I think that's something that we're all kind of struggling with. It's like a mental health issue, to be completely honest. I don't know if anyone else felt that way, but I definitely did.
Yes, no, I think it was so important to not be invisible, and I'm with all of you. I do think you're completely underestimating your prowess though with tech, because I do think, yeah, I really think you're very skilled, and definitely it's changing all the time, but still it takes like more than just the persistence to build a following. You've got clearly a great eye, a great way to edit video, create things that people need, and you must have learned a lot of technological things at the back end of that YouTube upload section, which I am frequently in. It is hell back there, like, honestly. So respect. And you know,
I want to say that I started a burlesque channel during lockdown, and I did a few videos which were really good. I had a really good videographer, but then the videographer moved on to some other things. So I would need to pick up, but I'm one of those people who kind of stopped too early. But the problem is, on YouTube, there isn't a lot of burlesque content, sadly. When you look up, you know, there are a lot of live shows, but there isn't like content. I think people need that. And sometimes my students come and they go, oh, but Vera Valentina said that these are the best shoes for burlesque. And I'm like, yes, those are good shoes for burlesque. Yes, absolutely. So I really admire that, and I really want to get back into it. But I love what you're doing, and I think it's really important that there's content and the variety as well of content. Yes. But you're doing great.
I loved your channel, Undyne. I love the fact my channel doesn't go into the history of burlesque at all, and yours went in depth into what people really need to know about the basis and the history of burlesque. And I really, really appreciated that. And that's why I said some people quit too early. If you just keep going, I want everybody to have a burlesque YouTube channel.
I felt that was I felt that was about me. I'll pick it up, I promise.
Yes, you know, it's all timing, and we just need to kind of trust our processes. Sometimes these things are a lot of work, and if you need to then be involved in something live or teaching and thinking about your curriculum, like you know, that takes a lot of your distraction and time away. So totally respect those cycles. I think we go through cycles. Would everybody understand that? On the raise a hand if you know about a cycle. You kind of just sometimes have to ride your cycle. You may feel like you should be doing something and it's not happening yet. Sometimes I just have to trust that feeling. So I'll just quickly comment that for me, going online was really interesting, and I'd kind of been waiting for it, because I thought prior to lockdown, everyone would have looked at me like I was going cuckoo if I said, I think people should learn dance online. Everyone was so attached to the studio. And universities for years had been selling their programs online as a way to get much more reach without people having to travel. And when it happened, I was pleased to see people understood how powerful Zoom was. I was pleased to see it quickly shifted people's ideas. And I learned truckloads, in particular, about the different pockets where burlesque is. And I had no idea it's in Malta and all these beautiful places. And so this has been amazing to really get a sense of family. And the more I spy on all of these places or meet people, I realize we're all connected, because our families don't understand us quite often, but we totally understand each other. So this is brilliant. Okay, next question. What technology did you use in this time? Neil, you touched on some of it, but do you want to just name, like, quite quickly, this isn't going to be long, just name some devices or pieces of kit.
Devices and pieces of kit.
Yeah.
I'd always been recording my shows anyway, live shows, for the benefit of the performers and for myself anyway. So I didn't really change my kit in that respect. I'm still using, okay, I've improved them. I've bought some better cameras and I bought more of them.
Which ones were?
Sorry?
Any brands? I'm just curious of like brands.
I knew a guy who was involved in video years ago, and he always highly recommended Panasonic cameras to me. So I've always used Panasonic for all my video stuff. I have a few issues with Panasonic, but on the whole, I like what they make and it works well for me. The issues are around the same problems I have with everybody with proprietary technology, which is they unnecessarily restrict what you can do with the hardware for no good reason at all. And if I wish I could find a manufacturer who manufactured cameras that work the same way, but which were more open to the way I want to use them, rather than me being restricted by what the manufacturer says I'm allowed to do with that device. That I find irritating, but that's true of most hardware, to be honest. I've been trying to find free software ways of controlling the Panasonic camcorders and things so that I can do what I want with them, so far without any success. But it mainly revolves around connecting them wirelessly without needing other devices. They do wireless transmission from the cameras, but only using an app that Panasonic provide, which
so you
is
never
no use
use
to me.
the phone. You don't use your phone for your video. You don't use phone?
No. Phone cameras I regard as very poor quality compared to anything else. I wouldn't touch them for anything like that. I've long been a free software advocate, so everything that I do uses free software exclusively. I don't use any proprietary software at all for anything. So, you know, whether that's video editing, photo editing, video production, or anything else, nothing proprietary ever touches.
What are some of the, just drop some of the types of things you're using?
Well, all my computers run on Linux. I use OpenSUSE Linux exclusively across all my devices. The software I use, things like Kdenlive for video editing and production, does everything that you'd expect of a high-end video editor, but it's not restricted in any way. It allows me to do exactly what I want to do with it. So I've found that to be hugely beneficial. It's developed a lot over the 14 years or so I've been using it. It's now very reliable and does absolutely everything. You know, I can do multi-track editing. I can import raw footage. I can use proxy clips to speed up editing on a relatively low-end computer. I can do color grading. I can do, you know, you name it, I can do it. Basically, anything that you'd pay a lot of money to do using proprietary software that restricts you, I will do on software that doesn't restrict me.
That's brilliant. Don, anything you're using in particular? I mean, I kind of met you and we were doing a lot of streaming, and you have some pretty groovy audio kit that we can even see behind you. What did you use for your...
So as a photographer and on the fly photographer, I tried to find something that was always in my pocket and always ready. And unlike Neil, I actually use my phone for everything. I'm not sure how good the quality looks for you guys on your end, but I'm using the Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra, which has one of the best cameras on the market when it comes to camera phones. It's so good that I can't actually use my high quality videos on TikTok because they don't use that high. They're used to iPhone quality, which is a lot less than what I'm using with my Samsung. So I find it very useful. I can plug in and play and stream wherever I'm at without having to set up equipment. The only other thing that I would recommend is light is your friend. Whenever you're recording, And so I have tons of these ring lights all over the place, because a lot of people don't realize that lighting is what makes everything pop and why it looks so crisp. And you have to make sure that that's probably the key when it comes to online streaming is your lighting and your sound. A lot of people don't use headphones, and they tend to have issues like either with hearing themselves or feedback or things like that. So headphones, good lighting, and a solid phone, and you can go streaming, and you don't have to worry about spending extra money on extra equipment. Like, having cameras and all that stuff is awesome. But when you're on the fly and trying to connect to Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, sometimes it's hard to get a camera to connect to these without having to bring a laptop and other software and hardware. So it's trying to be as quick to the stream as possible, because sometimes you might be in an event and you can't set up lights and you can't set up all these things, but you always have a phone in your pocket. So
I like your double ring light. I think I just fell in a bit more in love with you, because that is so impressive. Not one but two. Truly.
Yeah, it's all connected to one though. So
you're a master. You're a master of the stream.
Oh no, I'm learning.
I don't believe it. You're just a complete weapon. So I think now this podcast conversation already happened with Pillow Talk and I, but Baby Ray Pillow Talk as Oh Baby Productions, what kit were you using? Take us behind the scenes into your incredible room and magic.
So basically, after of course all our trials and tribulations with Instagram Live, I am a sound engineer by training. That's my pillow by day job, as I call it. So I was like, okay, maybe we should look into something that I'm more familiar with. And in terms of kitchen, and now everyone's not really working and earning what you used to. And you basically, because we don't know how long this thing was going to last for, you had to, we were all kind of making what we had savings stretch out.
Right.
So I think I had some money that I put away in an audio store that was in our neighborhood, just for a rainy day, whenever you're trying to save up for gear and you never quite have all the cash on hand. So that's my little investment that I do. And there was literally just enough in there for a microphone. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do this podcast thing. I've got a computer. Apparently, I just need a microphone because, as Don said, lighting, good quality lighting so that you're clear, and to invest in good quality sound, which is where my background is in, made sense. So that was where we pivoted to use to start What's the Tease, the podcast, using my sound engineering background, and then of course using YouTube and researching firstly how to do a podcast, what does it entail,
getting familiar with the streaming platforms like iTunes and Spotify.
And then I basically record, and I use my host platform is Anchor. I was on Libsyn before, but that was a paid service, but I felt it was a little bit limiting. And actually Anchor gave me the same, and it's for free, Anchor as well. Anchor FM, if anybody wants to anchor, when you're on a boat, you drop the anchor. Yeah. I use that for the podcast. And that has been very successful for me. I also was wanting to do the podcast in terms of, now that everyone was online, I saw performers getting ready for shows in their home all the time. And I kind of wanted to give people a chance to also relax and actually just do an old-fashioned phone call. And I actually found out that there's this there's a site called cleanfeed.net. And because that site doesn't have any video, it's just purely audio. So it's kind of bandwidth is dedicated to recording audio instead of dividing it between video and audio. So that's what I use to do the podcast. And it's actually been quite nice because it's actually been a really interesting experience doing the podcast that way, because when you're talking to people whose careers are based on representing themselves in a visual medium, to be able to just sit down and have a conversation with them about their art form. I think allowed people to open up a lot more about, and in a different way, which has been really interesting. And I think that that is a lot of what the listeners respond to when they're listening to the artists that they have received so much visual stimulation from.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. I didn't think about that. And people who are cut off from a visual response, because, you know, even when we did our call, there was nothing to look at. It was just a blank screen. So you do focus on the quality of the call and you feel more open to talk about things because you're not as distracted. Being visible is a very distracting thing, isn't it? You're constantly thinking, is my hair out of place? Do I have to smile more? So you're right. I think people would have, that's very interesting. You felt you got a more intimate conversation and a deeper honesty, I suppose.
Yeah. And I'm also old school like that. I just want to, so I'm just going to call you up, you know. Hey, Jody Martini, what are you doing today?
Oh, I love that. I love that. I'm really old school too. Undine, what did you use? Like you were there, like, you know, obviously you had this intimate, seductive relationship with your laptop and camera, that tiny little square I've got my finger on.
Exactly. That was, I mean, I'm not as fancy as all you guys. I just used my laptop, my phone, and my tablet. That was like it. Sometimes I'd be using all 3 devices at the same time because different people wanted to use or log in on different platforms. So I'd have like Zoom on my laptop and Facebook on my tablet, and, you know, live that people can join. So it was quite interesting. Then to record the YouTube videos, we had a ring light, and I have a Canon camera and a little tripod. So that was it. But yeah, mostly just those couple of things. No fancy recording equipment.
No,
nothing.
That's pretty fancy. I was propping my phone up on like books, and like I had it on a coffee mug, and so a tripod's very advanced. Trust me, you're up there.
No, but yeah, like all the propping of the things everywhere has also happened until I got a ring light. So yeah, there was a lot of that too.
I truly want to know how much burlesque artists contributed to the purchasing of ring lights on Amazon. We must have made a dent in the market, or some kind of like trajectory on an upward graph at the back end of their head office. It must have been up. Especially you, Don. You sound like you've got them like on subscription.
We do have them at our website.
Oh, really? See? Vera, and I wanted to know your kit, because like these videos you're making, are you using a phone? Are you editing in any particular software?
Yeah. So Don and Neil took me out here already, because Neil says that he doesn't pay for any software. He only uses the specific things that he likes to use. And Don's over here talking about his Samsung Galaxy and how the iPhone is crap. And so I don't know if I even want to share what I do with you guys.
Not crap. Just
really honest.
It's not Samsung.
No, but for real, on a real tip, I do pay for a lot of the software that I use. I use Canva, I use InShot, I use iMovie, and I pay for all of the pro versions of all of that stuff because I like to use the pro version. I like to have access to all the extra stuff. Yes, on the occasion it can be limiting, Neil. However, I do what I got to do to get what I got to get done. You know what I mean? When I first started my YouTube channel, I was just using my phone, and at the time, it was a great phone. I just had my, I think it was an iPhone 10 at the time. Of course, now I've upgraded. I'm on the iPhone 13 Max Pro. So you guys know that it's 4K in the front, 4K in the back. I know it's not a Samsung Galaxy.
It's close. It's getting there.
Oh,
Shade.
My feelings are, just remember, we're in the same time zone, so I can come find you, bro.
Hey, whenever I'm ready.
collaboration.
I'll let you use my Samsung.
Thank you, darling. I appreciate it. But no, I love my phone. I use my phone for my TikTok. I use my phone for most of my Instagram photo shoots for the most part. Sometimes I obviously get professional photo shoots and things like that done by professionals with real cameras like Undine has. I don't have any sound equipment, so might have to talk to Pillow Talk and Baby Ray over there about what I can do about my sound, because I'll be honest, my sound is not great on my YouTube channel, but I've been working it. That new cinematic setting on the camera is great. But that's what I've got. And I've got a crap ton of ring lights. I've got a ring light in front of me right now. I didn't bring my soft boxes upstairs, but they're downstairs in my studio. I have 4 different tripod setups. I've got 5,000 different, those little remotes that you can get on Amazon to take pictures and to start your video from afar.
Yeah.
I've lost so many of those on vacation, and it shows. I just found another one. This one actually works for iPhone and Android, and it's linked in my Amazon storefront. Since we want to talk about Amazon stores, I'll put that in there for anybody who's interested in that. But I've got a really simple setup all the way around because, like Pillow Talk was saying, like during the pandemic, we were all trying to make our little savings, whatever we had, last and get through. And, we're still trying to do that because, live performance isn't back to where like it used to be. We're still kind of scrambling for these live performances and these checks, right? So that's what I've been doing. When Dean and I were in a show together, I had my laptop and my phone set up on a stack of my fiance's medical school books. It was kind of funny. Oh, and a Lion King Disney storybook that's like this thick. So I'm there with you guys.
I would love to have just literally a coffee table book of the behind the scenes videos. Like, I know right now, like, this looks really good, but if I turn my laptop around, you would see the disaster of my bedroom. And I have done that for 2 years. I've been sitting there looking at like all of my crap, thinking people have no idea. This is what film is like. There's just chaos going around like that tiny square that we is the viewer. But I would love a coffee table book of like the behind the scenes, not just of burlesque, but the world in general. What were people doing? I saw hilarious things on LinkedIn of like people having to use their laptop, their ironing board as a desk because they didn't have anywhere to work from at home. So people were there in their like shorts with this ironing board doing their Zoom calls as their desk, and just crazy stuff. I would think that would have been a priceless take, a spin on the disaster we were going through. Definitely speaking to your point, Diane, about keeping spirits going. I felt I was online. I was teaching live in Zoom. I was teaching live for free in Instagram Live on the World Burlesque Day channel, and just trying to be positive because I wasn't feeling sadly affected. Thankfully, we had all healthy people in my family, but I knew there was a lot of distress, and I felt it's always been my duty to shine a light, as a performer and entertainer, full stop. Like, I think it's a real blessing we can bring people away from their troubles. So I thought it kept me going as well as kept others going, to just be totally positive. And I used YouTube to discover what I was doing in all these platforms. Like, how do I get branded content tag on Instagram? How do I use Canva and get this particular picture to turn that way? Like, YouTube was my go-to. So I just feel like I throw that in there. The last thing we will talk about is like, what role do you think it's going to play in the future? Let's just say like 1-2 sentences so that we get to the end of this in the 40 minutes we allocated. Neil, 2 sentences. What will digital play as a role in the future, do you think now?
The major thing for me right now, I would say the thing that's making money and which looks like it's going to carry on indefinitely is hybrid shows.
I like that, hybrid shows. Don, what do you think is going to be the role of digital in the future?
I think it's going to play a lot bigger role than what we anticipate. Many people have learned that you can do things from home without having to leave home. You can create a whole show from your bedroom, essentially. So I believe it's going to play a huge role, and people should probably focus on it a lot more.
Mm-hmm. And Diane, are you glad to just pack up the laptop and tease the actual audience now, or are you going to be making love to that little square at the top of the screen for a bit longer? Or what do you think it's going to do for the rest of the future in digital for you?
Well, we've been doing live shows since as soon as we were able to, and even sometimes there were little periods when we could. So I love teaching in person. It's such a different experience. when people want to join from abroad, of course, maybe sometimes I'll do like a workshop online or help someone, but mostly I'm very happy to be teasing the audience and looking them in the eyes instead of the eye up there on the laptop.
The audience is happy too, trust me. Oh Baby Productions, what do you think digital will play in the future in burlesque?
I think it's playing out right now. I think during lockdown, a lot more people became comfortable filming themselves in their home spaces and having to create short form and long form content that is video orientated. And I think that that has proved itself with the kind of popularity of Reels and TikToks. And now we see burlesque dancers advertising themselves and their personas and their shows through these platforms. And so I think video content in general was kind of the main takeaway from lockdown, and people just becoming more comfortable with the medium, more so than just a stagnant photograph. Also having access to communities across the world and performers across the world who you otherwise may not have had access to, or you didn't think that maybe they were reachable to you, but now they're right there following you on TikTok or they performed in your live show on Instagram, you know, and suddenly you have a relationship with someone halfway around the world. But we still do believe that there is nothing quite like a live show. And I think we'll be sticking with that.
Oh gosh, definitely. Vera, do you have any thoughts on how it's going to be for you, or what do you think will happen in the scene with the digital in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everybody. I think there's a lot of opportunities all the way around in the digital space. But as a performer specifically, I think that the future of at least burlesque performers and their financial stability, I think the money is going to be in content creation, because there's a lot more opportunity for it than just being, I'm not just being a live performer, because like Ray said, there's nothing like being on stage and being live and having a live audience. But I'll tell you what, there's also nothing like that email that you get from Facebook once a month that says, we just dropped money in your bank account. So there's that. There's a lot of opportunities for burlesque performers and performers just in general on social media, creating content and getting paid to be who they are. And I think that we need to explore that a little bit further.
Yes, I would definitely say that's my one, I've got two pieces. Passive income. Passive income, I think, is the piece in this. I think if we don't work it out and we're not earning from it, like you're saying, Vera, people haven't taken the time to actually understand that that's what it can do for you. It can be generating income around the world while you're sleeping. If you've got these followers, you should be monetizing them. And so I have an app that is hopefully going to do that to some extent, the World Burlesque Academy app, which sprung from having all these people I wanted to reach. I totally get that. Secondarily, I think it's going to really play a role for us in terms of audience. Like, we can actually, the purpose of World Burlesque Day is to create more visibility and trust around what burlesque is. The purpose is to make it accessible and cross over to the mainstream more so our shows fill up. And I think if we're advertising ourselves on things like TikTok and doing as good a job as you've done, Vera, on YouTube, we start to get like complete novices and real strangers to this who are so scared they wouldn't even put a foot in a dance class yet, to feel comfortable with it from the comfort of their home. It's just going to make the whole thing grow bigger. Like, and I'm hoping it'll pop, like drag has popped. I'm hoping World Burlesque Day will pop for burlesque, because it's my belief it changes lives and actually shouldn't be so mysterious and misunderstood, and it seems to be. And to that end, I am doing a TikTok challenge for this World Burlesque Day. I've written a track purposely. It's the World Burlesque Day anthem. So if you want to support it, it would be great. I am also going to ask you guys to send me a headshot and a little 50-word bio so I can actually plug you as the keynote speakers on this panel in Instagram to all the followers. And yes, there is a little I am participating in burlesque, like kind of icon people are using. They're making a collage all around the world. We've been getting more and more of them every year. So if I'll put that in an email to you guys, you may want to make one of those too. Or if in your case, you're like behind Burlesque or Infinities, Neil, you can have the We Are participating in World Burlesque Day. It's not a day I own. This is an awareness day, like Pride elevated, gay pride to where it is, to the point that all the banks and, department stores have pride in their windows. World Burlesque Day is just a calendar day that you can use for publicity, that you can use to create an open day. It's a bit more zhuzhy and exciting to say, hey, we're doing a class for World Burlesque Day. So do own it. It's the purpose of it. It's a PR day. It's just that I started it because one didn't exist, but I don't own it. And it's really, been rich to have you all on this call with me today. I super appreciate it. Keep doing what you're doing and keep staying connected with me and with everyone else, because I think we could actually really forge a new burlesque through this by communicating what it is better and by creating less mystery and misconception. Because I don't know, I think that is a tragedy that people still feel they don't understand what it is and they're scared of it. And drag doesn't have that misconception. It did. Drag has somehow kind of elevated itself into this place of understanding that it's entertainment, that they're artists. And I love that. I hope we can get there. Do people feel we can and it will cross over, and that it's getting there?
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to take a while, but yeah.
We're going to get there.
We will, if we're all singing from the same hymn sheet or YouTube channel or whatever channel it chooses to be. I feel I coined this phrase, pop a pixel.
Pop
Pixel.
a pixel, that's great.
That's cute.
I love it.
So I'm just going to say, I was contemplating calling this panel on the program Pop a Pixel, but I wasn't sure if it would be too, kind of finite for people whose English might be the second language. But I'm going to close by saying Pop a Pixel. And thank you for your time. And we've gone a tiny bit over, but I super appreciate it. I'll bounce this, I'll just post it on the day, and it'll just be there to testament what we did and changing history in a way, because I just, think in the days of Gypsy Rose Lee, she would have been astounded to think this is where it was going in 2022.
I'm sure she would have.
Right? So Pop a Pixel, people.
Thank you so much for
Hi,
having us.
thank you for having
Thank you for having me.
Can I quickly do a cheesy all group photo? Ready? I'm doing it on the screen. 1, 2, 3. Oh God, I look like I'm going to swallow a fly, but that's okay. I've definitely popped a pixel. I am the definition of popping a pixel. You guys are amazing. Keep shining. I just can't believe what incredible work you did, and resilience in just being so resourceful to do what we did in the pandemic. That was epic. I know my eyes were going cross-eyed at certain points with all the different buttons and uploadings and things, but I got there, and you all did as well. So bravo. Have a wonderful day, evening, morning. I don't know, I'm so confused with the time zones, but
Right.
I'm making love to the square, Undine, for you.
bye. Bye.
Mm.
Hi.